My name is Eric Michael. I've sold over $5 million in sports cards, and welcome to episode number 15 of Beyond the Game, where I talk about sports, my life, business, relationships, sports cards, and everything in between. I have a bunch of good stuff to talk about. I'm live right now on Instagram and Facebook, so if you guys are watching this and you have questions, feel free to comment, and I'll answer any of your questions. A few things I wanted to go over. Might be controversial. This might piss off some of you guys, but it's just what's been going through my head recently. So, Major League Profits. We're a coaching program, and we teach people how to make money buying and selling sports cards. If you don't know who I am, that's what I do. I've done it for 10 years, and about 4 years ago, I started teaching people how to actually do it themselves, and it's great. It's a very realistic, sustainable way to make an extra few $1,000s per month on the side, which is fantastic. Now, we're growing very fast. We've gotten very good at helping people make money with sports cards. And once you get good at helping people make money, people talk and more people want to join, which means we need to hire more and more employees. And I just can't help but something I've noticed with Americans. Yes, this is directed at Americans, and I'm American myself. I'm just going to come out and say it. I know Americans are just lazier than people overseas. Time and time again, we have all these jobs within our company. For example, for like operations where people are like responding to emails and, dealing with clients and all sorts of stuff like that. And I've hired a few Americans, some have been good and showed me a lot, but time and time again, there'd be like jobs my operations people would have to do, and they wouldn't want to. It would be like, maybe not the most glamorous job in the world, like an admin task of like possibly responding to emails or something like that. And they would give pushback and say something along the lines of like, this isn't my strong suit. This isn't what I signed up for. They would say that in a nice way. And I got sick and tired of it. So what I did is I hired some amazing people who live in the Philippines, 2 of them actually. They used to work in New York City. They're American educated, but they just live in the Philippines. And I don't know if you guys know this about the Philippines, but the Philippines is much cheaper. The American dollar carries a lot of weight. So you could pay someone $3 to $4 an hour in the Philippines, and that's above minimum wage. And the reason I did that was not to save money, even though it's a nice plus. The reason I did that is because I've dealt with a lot of people overseas and in the Philippines, and not once has anyone ever give me backlash on, I don't want to be doing this, I don't want to be doing that. And these people are just incredible. And they're 20% of the cost of what I was paying the Americans. And they're way more work efficient. And part of it, this is my theory on why this has become a thing. And I'm not the only business owner that says this. Like, if you talk to other business owners, they'll say something similar. Because Americans, our whole lives, right, we're given participation trophies, told we can be whatever we want, and fed all sorts of bullshit, right? Let's call it what it is. Like getting our participation trophy when you're 8 years old for coming in 7th place out of 10 people, I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think you should be given that because that's not real life, right? Don't we do school to like prepare people for real life? Like, isn't that why you go to school to like learn things and socialize to prepare yourself for real life? Being given a participation trophy and being told it's okay to be coming 7th, it's not okay, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with trying your best, and sometimes you're not always going to win, but you want to prepare people for real life. And I just think that because of we're taught so young that everybody's the best. Timmy and Joey and Tracy, we're all amazing. And once you get to the real world and you discover, wait a second, I actually have to work hard to get where I want to be. And everything I do is in sunshines and rainbows because so many people are just kind of given everything their whole lives, right? They're just told you can go to whatever college they want and you could major in whatever you want and all that stuff. When you get to the real world, all of a sudden it's like, shit, wait, I actually have to do things I may not like, as opposed to people overseas where work is embedded in their culture. Like it is not honorable to disrespect your employer. It is not honorable to like be lazy, right? And I just think it's fucked up American society. And what's crazy is I say this, and because I say this, it's actually never been an easier time to make money in America because the competition, it's never been easier to start a business, right? You could start a business buying and selling sports cards today, right? There's this magical thing called the internet. You could start buying sports cards right now. And it's never been easier to start a business, but it's never been harder. I kind of said this in my last podcast. It's never been harder because we're just fed all sorts of crap. And right, we're dealing with TikTok and Instagram, and our attention spans are like nothing. And we're told our whole lives we could be amazing when some of us can't be. And that makes it hard on people because our brains have been brainwashed to like not, right, to not be ready for real life. So I don't know. Something that was on my mind that I wanted to say. Um, Another thing, I wrote an email on this morning. Some of you guys will get this email later if you're watching this live. Is I actually think life is ironic. So I got some sports cards stuff to talk about and some life stuff. So it's ironic because what sparked my drive for entrepreneurship was actually working in an office. I worked in corporate America. I worked in an office for about 5 days and I hated it with a burning passion. I hated every single thing about it, from the commute to the cubicle to the people in there. No offense if you're watching this. Everyone was just so dry and boring, and it felt like the life has been sucked out of them. And after I saw that for 5 days, that's what sparked my drive for sports cards and really pushing with it. And then it eventually evolved into Major League Profits. And that it's funny because that is what drove me to do all this stuff. But I just signed a lease on an office. And in my defense, the reason I did that is because my office is not going to be like a normal office. It's going to be very fun, young, uplifting, culture driven. Things like I'm gonna have a ping pong table in there and catering food every day. And I have a boat I'll take all the employees out on, and everyone will be young and hungry and motivated and driven. And people will be talking to each other and socializing, as opposed to like your standard corporate office that's a cubicle and that's it. You just sit there in your cubicle and look at spreadsheets all day. But I just think it's ironic how, like, even though it's different because now I'm the boss, but it's just funny how it works that the office, going to that office was such a miserable experience for me. It brought me to build this company, and I built this company to the point where now I want an office. It's where, like, because I think everyone will make more money, people will be more productive, and people will be happier. Because I think the number one driving force of happiness is relationships, and I think an office is a great place to start and create relationships and see people you like every day. And actually, my goal is for people to wake up and want to go to the office and want to work hard and want to see each other. That is the overall objective, but we'll see what happens. I've never had an office before. I've never even worked in one before, only for 5 days. So we'll see what happens. Should be interesting. Other topic I want to bring up. So somebody asked me that joined my program. Before joining my program, they asked me, they said to me, Eric, why don't you just flip sports cards? Why do you even bother teaching this stuff? And there's a few, that's my business partner back there on some phone calls. There's a few reasons for that. I'll get him out of the way. There we go. There's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is Major League Profits, like the coaching program, is a much bigger vehicle than buying and selling sports cards. Like, buying and selling sports cards is a safe, realistic, sustainable way to make a few $1,000s a month. And I've gotten it up to like $20,000-$25,000 a month in profit, which is great. Like, it's great money. But I've always had this ambition to start a company that could do millions and millions and millions of dollars. And sports cards are just not that. That's why if you ever see my ads or you see my content or you see me talk online or whatever, you always see me using the words like safe, predictable, like this is actually realistic, because that's what it is. Like, sports cards, like this stuff is like a great way to make an extra few $1,000s a month on the side because the barriers are very low to get in. You just really need an eBay account and Wi-Fi. That's it. As opposed to like other businesses like drop shipping and Amazon and real estate, where there's obviously a lot of barriers to entry, like buying a piece of real estate. there's lawyers and there's escrow and there's a mortgage and there's banks that need to approve you and all this stuff. Sports cards, right? You're just buying and selling the stuff. So that's the first reason. The second reason is I've done it for a long time and I've gotten very good at it. And, you know, if you get something that good at something and you've done it for a long time, you get bored. And I do get better. Like I get more fulfillment instead of me making $1,000 on a card, me showing someone how to make $1,000 on a card. It's much more fulfilling. It's much more rewarding because sports cards, you're just doing deals with people. Like when you sell a sports card to someone, you're not actually like, maybe you are to a degree, but you're not really like making someone's life like better, I guess is the best way to put it. Um, as opposed to like helping someone make an income, you're actually like making a direct impact on that person's life for the better. And like I've always, this is just business 101. The more impact you can make on people, the more money you're gonna make, right? That's just kind of how it goes. Like Amazon's the biggest business in the world because they made the most impact on people with, the Amazon Prime and having everything so available. So like that's just kind of business 101. And it goes back to sports cards. That's why I always tell people, like, be a nice person, actually give people deals, be a little bit below what stuff sells for, because that is the way to get people to actually like you and people will want to actually do business with you, as opposed to if you're one of those grumpy assholes that just, want every last penny. And I used to be one of these people that want every last penny and, you're not pleasant to deal with. Don't be that guy because you'll actually cost yourself money in the long run, number one. And number two, it's just not pleasant, right? Let's be a good person. So that's interesting. And now going on to sports, so I have like some things I want to talk about, like the top sports cards I'm looking at to buy right now, which I know people are always interested in, and some other stuff. So I was listening to Colin Cowherd, love listening to Colin Cowherd. I know he has his haters. My friends don't like him, but I like him. And he was talking about how Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL. He is. Like, I think it's pretty undisputable. Andy Reid is the best coach in the NFL, hands down. Now, why is he the best coach? He wins, obviously. But like, let's take last year, for example. Last year, if he took a receiving core that was not that talented and somehow he won a Super Bowl with them, that's what good coaches do. Good coaches take people that are like, so like, let's use a school example, right? Because we all love school. Let's say if you are an average coach or you're an average teacher and you're teaching algebra, out of 100 students, let's say 25 get an A because you're an average coach. Let's say you're a bad teacher. Well, if you're a bad teacher and you don't relay information as well and you don't care as much, maybe 15 are going to get an A. But Andy Reid is a great teacher. Andy Reid's a great coach. So the average coach, 25 students will get an A. Andy Reid, 40 to 50 people get an A in Andy Reid's class because that's how good of a coach he is. That's how good of a teacher he is. And translating it to football, right? That's why guys like Mecole Hardman were wide open in the end zone for that game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl in overtime. Why? Because Andy Reid is a great coach. He makes life easy. Like, watch the Chiefs play. Watch the Chiefs play, and they're always one of the top red zone offenses in the league every single year. Every year they are. Why? These guys are wide open. Like, Mecole Hardman being wide open, do you think he actually did anything? All he did was he ran that little motion and popped out. That's play design, right? That's Andy Reid. That's all Andy Reid. That's why Andy Reid is a great coach, right? If Travis Kelce, the ball's going to him, but somehow he's wide open, it's because the play design. It's because Andy Reid's a great coach. And it goes back to like coaching programs and like business education online. It's like no one's really ever a scam. Like maybe one out of like 1,000 people. Like no one's really ever a scam. There's shitty coaches and there's good coaches. There's bad programs and there's good programs, but there's always success within coaching programs. But like if the average success rate online of a coaching program is like 25%, the good programs will get 60 to 70% of people to be successful, maybe even 80 or 90. The bad ones will only be 5 to 10. It's like I had a shitty geometry teacher in high school. He sucked. But it's not like geometry was a scam. He was just a shitty teacher. And because of it, a lot of people didn't do as well. But the possibility was still there to get an A. I didn't, but it was still possible. Something to think about. Also relaying onto coaching. So like, because we're getting into the football season, um, you want to see how prevalent coaching is. You want to know how prevalent coaching is? Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I remember. So the way sports cards works is every year. I'm saying this right now. I'm saying this right now because this happens every single year, and you can mark my words because this podcast will be released before the football season. Every year, there's one quarterback that doubles or triples in value that nobody thought would. So, like, for example, guys like CJ Stroud and Mahomes and Josh Allen and blue chip guys, they're not going to double in value. Maybe Stroud could if he goes crazy, but probably not. Okay. The guy that doubles or triples in value is the guy nobody's expecting. The guy that doesn't sell for a lot of money. So going back to 2022, I know you guys watching this may have not been in sports cards back then, but Jalen Hurts, nobody liked. Nobody, even though he made the playoffs the year before, I think, and lost to the Bucks, which is kind of impressive. Nobody thought he could throw that down the field. No one trusted his decision making. Nobody liked him. The guys who were hyped were like Tua, Burrow, Herbert going into the 2022 season. I still remember this. Lo and behold, Jalen Hurts cards were like, actually, let me just instead of me just bullshitting, let me look it up. I'm actually curious to see. So at Jalen Hurts contenders, that's why I keep my laptop right here to look this stuff up. A Jalen Hurts contenders, right now sells for about $1,500 a PSA 10. But if we go back, let's go back. All right, so this is what I was talking about. All right, this is crazy. So a Jalen Hurts contenders, in like before the 2022 season was about like $1,000 ish, give or take. Give or take a little bit. You know what it was selling for? During the season, it got all. Excuse me. This is actually, yeah, it got all the way up to like almost $3,000. That's fucking crazy. That's insane. And every year there's usually someone like that that goes up that much in value. Like last year, it was Tua, but then he kind of came back down after he didn't play as well going to the end of the season. So something to think about. Like, ask yourself, who is like low risk but has massive reward this year? Like guys who people aren't on. Is like, let me look up a list of the NFL quarterbacks. I'll give you some potential guys that could like go up a lot in value that nobody's on. Let's see here. I'm gonna give you guys. All right. So Mahomes, Herbert, Dak, all these guys are solidified. Hurts is kind of solidified. So Hurts is somebody again that no one really is on that has the potential to go up a lot. Jordan Love, not really. His stuff sells for so high. Trevor Lawrence has a lot of potential to go up a lot because just he hasn't been hyped. Like that hype hasn't really hit him before the preseason, even though I thought it would. Tua, people are kind of over, not really. Kyler Murray is somebody he's kind of picked up a lot of steam, so he has potential. See else. Deshaun Watson is somebody who nobody's really on. Bryce Young is a guy. People don't really think he could do much because just of the situation he's in. Jaden Daniels, he doesn't have his good cards out, but Jaden Daniels is someone that I don't think he's gonna play that well, but people are pretty high on. Here's an interesting one. I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, and I'm not saying he's gonna be a good quarterback. I'm not saying that at all. But Daniel Jones. If Daniel Jones does anything, his stuff will freaking skyrocket. Let me see what his cards sell for now. Because like someone like Daniel Jones, if he just does anything, his value will go up. Let's see here. Rookie autograph, Daniel Jones. Yeah, like look at this. Oh my god, this is so cheap. I remember when these cards were worth so much more money. So a Daniel Jones PSA 10 right now, the last sale did $164. Oh my god. So many people that lost so much money. Last year, going into the season, the same exact card was 500. Now it's worth 160. And at its peak, I remember this, at its peak, Daniel Jones once sold for almost $900 and $1,200. At his peak, this card is like worth 800. But that is the type of guy, if he does, like, the downside, people already have no belief in him. I don't have any belief in him. I'm not going to buy him. But people have no belief in him. People think he's not going to be the starter. Nobody thinks he can do anything. But if he brings the Giants out and starts doing stuff, starts throwing the ball well to Malik Neighbors, you will see his stuff skyrocket. So I think it's a good bet. Like, I think, like, so, like, because at the end of the day, if you're buying a guy with, like, you're buying someone with the hope to go up in value, if you're a good gambler, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're gambling, right? Let's be honest. If you're buying Daniel Jones right now, you are gambling. You want to bet where there's max value, right? The good gamblers don't bet just, I think this game is going to win. I think this player is going to go up in value. Good gamblers look at the money line, look at the numbers, look at the odds, and make a bet based on data, a bet based on numbers. And Daniel Jones, now that I think I'm talking myself into it now, but Daniel Jones is someone where it makes sense. Like, the numbers make sense. He's so low. His floor is here and his ceiling is really high if he does anything. And it kind of goes back to, like, that's called being a value better. Like, the greatest gamblers of all time, they don't look at the game. They don't look at the team, really. They're looking at the money line. They're looking at the odds, the percent chance of them winning, what has happened in the past. So something to think about. Like, a good example to this is, like, a few episodes ago, I was saying stuff about Sam Howell. Sam Howell was, what was he doing? His PSA 10 contenders, this was like April, May, was about $140. And I said to people, this is good value. Why? Because he's already the backup. He's going to the Seahawks. He's already selling for backup prices. If he does anything in the preseason, you're going to see his value go up, right? So it's very low risk and very high reward. That's how good gamblers operate, because that's what you're doing. You're gambling. But we want to gamble with the odds in our favor, right? Gambling is good if you're betting with the odds in your favor. Gambling has a negative connotation with it, because when you make bets with FanDuel and DraftKings, the way the odds are set up is you're supposed to lose, right? In the long run, that's why casinos make a lot of money. Like, if you keep playing roulette, it is mathematically impossible for you to win money in the long run. It is impossible. I don't care how lucky you are. There is no strategy to win in roulette. You're going to lose, I can promise you. And that's why the word gambling has a negative connotation with it, because a lot of it's done with casinos. And casinos stack the odds so you can't win. However, in this situation I'm talking about, like sports cards, if you do it right, you could win in the long run, because that's all sports cards is, right? You're making bets, and if you do it right, the odds will, be in your favor. So, like, Sam Howell, I'm looking here, like, his value is shot back down. So, like, if you did Sam Howell right, his value, let's see here, is his PSA 10 contenders is now down to, like, low hundreds. But, like, you could have got this for 130, sold it 2 weeks ago for like 200, 210, 220, made like almost double your money. Not double, like 50, 60%, and then would have went back down. So, something to think about when you're buying players. It's not about the player, it's about the value you're getting, right? That's why, like, Trevor Lawrence, the hype's not there. Daniel Jones, the hype's not there, even though no one likes Daniel Jones less than me. I don't think he's a good quarterback. But is he a good buy right now to, like, week 1 they play the Vikings, whose defense is in, they're home, and they're playing Sam Darnold. If, Daniel Jones has a solid game, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, you'll see that value go up, I promise. And then you go and sell it. As opposed to, like, if Daniel Jones does not have a good game, his value is not really going to go down much, right? So, like, the best way I could put this, if the average game, this is like a numbers example. Let's say on a 10 to scale, on a scale to 10, if a 5 means that's the average game a quarterback has, and Daniel Jones has a 3 out of 10 game, I think his value will go down 10%. However, if he has a 7 out of 10 game, his value will go up like 20, 30%, right? So the odds are in your favor. Hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. I have a very analytical brain. So, like, this is how I process things. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. On to some cards. So I'm gonna give you guys what I think is a good buy right now. So what I think is a good buy right now. So, all right, I'm gonna get shit for what I'm about to say, but hear me out. Right? If you're buying stuff and you're doing it correctly, right? You're buying low and selling high. You're buying when people are fearful and you're selling when others are greedy, right? That Daniel Jones example I just went off on, it's because nobody's on him. People are fearful. So when you're fearful, be greedy. When you're greedy, be fearful. When people are greedy, be fearful, right? That's how sports cards works in a nutshell. Now, what I'm going to say about that is, what is nobody on right now? Baseball, right? Nobody cares about baseball. Basketball's heating up. Baseball, not really. Who is nobody on right now? Who is a solid player that is not having the best of years, is injured a little bit. His team is probably not going to make the playoffs. Someone of that, Julio Rodriguez. I think he's not a bad buy. His PSA 10, non-autographed PSA 10 Bowman Chrome from 2019, his rookie year, was about $60 to $70 before the season. What does that card sell for now? About $30. Right? That's a good stab. The floor is low. The ceiling's high, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. It might go up in the offseason in November, December. Probably not, but he holds it till January, February. Should go up. His autograph, Bowman Chrome, same thing. It's followed the same path. So it was about $1,400 before the season. Now it's $700. I think it's a low risk, high reward investment. I think the odds are in your favor. Can you lose money? Of course, you can lose money on anything, but I think the odds of you making money and how much you can make far surpass what you could lose. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I'll give you guys a higher risk investment because if you guys know me, you'll know I like high risk. All right. This is somebody that is not having a good year, and he's in the minors. He's in the San Diego. Actually, let me just make sure. Make sure he's in the San Diego Padres farm system. Yep. So, 18-year-old catcher, and he's in the San Diego Padres farm system. And his cards were selling for a lot when they came out. He was like the most hyped guy in the product of Bowman Chrome in 2023. Ethan Salas. He is not having a good year. He's hitting 210, and just not having it. And his Bowman Chrome was about $350. His PSA 10 Bowman Chrome was about $350 before the season started. You know what it's worth now? About $130. Higher risk. That 130 could definitely shoot down to 80, but also that 130 could jump to like 400 quickly, right? If he does anything in the offseason and plays in some winter ball and starts playing well, you'll see that value go up. So something to think about. Also, I saw this is also interesting. So those are like some guys I'm looking at to buy. Like Julio Rodriguez is like a safer investment. I think I can make some steady money on. Ethan Salas, it's kind of taking a swing. But I like the odds, right? Like when you're making bets, right? Like I keep saying, you want the odds to be in your favor, right? That's what good gamblers do, because that's what we're doing here at the moment. Like grading sports cards is systematic. That's a business, and you could turn it over and make predictable money. Buying guys and holding them, there's a gambling aspect to it. Like if I buy like a card and it's $100 and I send it in for grading, and a 10 is 300 and a 9 is 100, I'm going to break even. There's not much risk in that, right? It's like, it's more of a business, right? It's predictable money, but like buying like Ellie De La Cruz, like this card I did for $2,000, I think the odds of it going up in the future are better than the odds of it going down, and that is a gamble. But I'm gambling with the odds in my favor, right? That's all like sports cards is when you're buying stuff already graded and holding it for the long term. So I actually saw I saw a picture of some prices at the 2012 National Card Show. This was before I got into sports cards. And someone was asking for a BGS 9.5 1986 Fleer, Michael Jordan. Somebody was asking $4,000 for it, and it was probably worth like $2,500 or $3,000 at the time. People are usually overpriced. You know what that card's worth now? $40,000. $40,000. That's what that card's worth now. Pretty crazy. Like going along those lines, like a 2003 Topps Chrome PSA 10 LeBron. When I got in the hobby, it was like $300. Now, $4,000. Pretty freaking wild. A PSA 1 Gaudy Babe Ruth And this is the one card I PC. If you don't know what PC means, it means personally collect. So like I buy Gaudy Babe Ruths just because I like them. I think they'll go up in value. I don't think they're too expensive. I like Babe Ruth because he's like an icon. I don't know why I do. I just do. A PSA 1, when I got into sports cards, it was about $900. 900 bucks. That card today is $6,000 to $7,000. The same card. You could have made 7 times your money if you just held it. I've about doubled my money on holding a bunch of Babe Ruths, but it's crazy. And the reason I'm bringing this up because someone asked me recently. They said, "Where do you see sports cards going in the future?" And I told them, I was like, "Listen, let's just use common sense, right? Obviously, I'm biased, right? I am biased. What's up, Garrison? I'm biased because I sell a program that teaches people how to make money buying and selling sports cards, right? So, like, I'm going to tell you, I think sports cards is going up because I've been doing it for a long time. It's only gone up, and that's what I truly think. But forget about my bias for a second. Ask yourself this: do you see sports getting up, going up, not getting up, going up? Do you see sports going up? Like, look at it: NBA, MLB, NHL. All these sports are pushing their stuff overseas. That's why week 1 there's a game, the Eagles and the Packers in Brazil, because these sports are just pushing their stuff overseas, right? And if sports is going to continue to grow, sports gambling is going to continue to grow, sports cards is going to continue to grow. Just how it works, right? And there's so many people that are being flooded into sports cards because this is what happens. They get into sports, they start gambling, they lose money, and then they start doing breaks. Breaks is like opening up packs and boxes. They start losing money, and then eventually they come to like tip someone like me and say, "Hey, I want to learn how to make money." But like sports cards to kind of tell you the potential. Sports cards for the most part, predominantly, it's a little bit in Asia, a little bit in Canada, a little bit more in Canada, but it's an American thing. American. Like these cards, like these baseball cards and all these basketball cards, like these are for the most part are going to sell in America. Very American. Europe, Australia, a lot of Asia has not even touched this stuff yet. There's still so much potential, tons of potential, like insane amounts. And I tell you this because like it's always easier to get in the beginning, right? You always make more money when you get in the beginning, right? Amazon got into e-commerce in 1996 or 1999, whatever it was. If Amazon tried to start, Jeff Bezos tried to start today, it would be 100 million times harder. And he would not be able to get to where he's at today. It's just how business works. So the reason I'm saying this, it's always easier to get in and start making money. And then when it grows, you're embedded and you're invested into the business. And it's just easier for you. Like it's easier for me to make money with sports cards now because I've been doing it for 10 years, as opposed to someone that just gets in, right? They don't have the bankroll, they don't have the knowledge. Something to think about. Someone asked me that, so I thought I would answer it. Let's see. C. Lucia says, do you still think that the growing want for cards will have the card companies creating more of the short prints and autos, making them less valuable? Yeah, they're gonna continue to print more. It's just how it's gonna go. But I mean, they're systematic about it. Like they know what happened in the 80s and the 90s, and they know that the market crashed. So like the reason there's all these different variations and different products is because back in the 80s and 90s, it was just the same card. Like Ken Griffey Jr. had one rookie card. That's it. One rookie card. That's it. And it was printed hundreds of thousands of times. And because that oversaturation of one card, these cards are selling for too high. Long story short, the market crashed, right? Which is why when they came back around, they started making different variations. One sell for higher, one sell for lower. So you're always going to see different variations. But like the main stuff's always going to be the main stuff. Like Bowman Chrome is like the baseball product, right? And that's always going to hold its value. Garrison says, what are your thoughts on WNBA? Could be something with athletes like Juju, Caitlin Clark, Reese attracting more eyes. Yeah, so like this goes back to what I was saying before. Like sports cards hasn't even scratched the surface yet. Like still UFC cards haven't come up. WNBA cards are starting to come up. As cards of Caitlin Clark have come up. Like that stuff sells for crazy amounts of money. Some of her cards, and it's because Caitlin Clark is like an icon. She is literally someone that just brought women's basketball into like the limelight. And like I don't care. I'm not trying to be sexist here, okay? But let's be honest. People weren't watching WNBA. People weren't watching the college tournament. And it's crazy because all these women, like in the WNBA, don't like Caitlin Clark. because of all the spotlight she gets. But Caitlin Clark's not someone that's cocky. I don't think she's cocky. I think she's pretty normal, pretty like seems like a nice person. I don't hear her saying anything crazy. And no, but like this is what I tell people myself when they fight with Caitlin Clark. Like nobody would be watching this game. Nobody would be watching the WNBA if it wasn't for her. You should be thanking her. She's like an icon of the sport. It's like Steph Curry with basketball. Like Steph Curry really brought the 3-point shot. Like he's changed the way the game's been played. I remember Steph Curry cards. I forget what years this was, but do you remember that? I remember this specifically. How much his cards blew up. Do you remember that? That 3-point shot to win the game with like 1 second left against the Oklahoma City Thunder. He kind of shot it between the 3-point line and half court. He just kind of pulled up from there, and people were like, "Oh my god, what is he doing?" And he hit it. It wasn't a swish. The ball kind of like rolled around a little bit and went in. That like people were like, "Oh my god, Steph Curry is changing the game," and it just after that moment, like the next day, his carbs doubled. It was crazy. I still remember it to this day, and I was like, "Shit, I wish I had some, but I didn't." Um, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions, always feel free to shoot me a PM, shoot me a DM. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, shoot me a message with any questions you might have. I enjoy doing these. More questions I get, more I could do, more I could talk, more stuff I could answer. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.